Right.
Unless you want
I
to.
paid my taxes.
I shouldn't say.
Yes, I see. I stand by that statement.
Peter, I've lost sight of the goal.
Of what?
The goal.
Good.
The who? The goal?
What we're doing.
Good.
Okay.
There's no goal. As long as you think there's a goal, it's just a carrot on a string, and you're stuck in a feedback loop. So having no goal, then what?
No, I've lost sight of what it is. I'm not saying I don't have one.
Oh.
I have one that is,
Well, if you have one, then if you have.
I don't know what it is anymore.
Well, but how can you have it if you not know what it is?
It's.
What is it? What is it? You might. I mean, that doesn't really click somehow. You must think you know what it is in some subliminal way.
Oh, I have a lot of nebulous past visions which change. I'm just saying that it's interesting to look at what we're doing.
Yeah. So what does that look like to you at this point in time? What are you doing?
Well, I still think that there is a waking up into an awareness that is not shared by most people.
You do?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
They live in a conventional world in which they see themselves as distinct individuals with an objective world out there.
Well, so how do you see yourself?
Well, I've noticed changes in perspective,
Mm-hmm.
but I notice going back and forth.
Uh-huh.
And when one is gone, the others, it's as if it never happened.
Uh-huh.
But maybe on some subliminal level, the other one isn't quite as solid, and there is a lot of gaps in it, and more so than there used to be.
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of changes, but
So where does the losing sight of the goal fit into that?
Well, a comment that I heard recently, which was the priming the pump of recognition or insight.
Uh-huh.
That, I mean, for me, that is probably one of the most exciting things, is to have a kind of different take on what had been previously happening.
Uh-huh.
From out of nowhere, where it's
Right.
just a seeing.
Yeah.
And it seems to be wise, but sometimes I question if that isn't tainted also. I mean,
Uh-huh.
if that isn't, and what is that? Is that part of my cultural tainting of my thinking?
Tainted by the excitement or tainted by the difference?
What the message is, what the seeing is,
Uh-huh.
and
When you say what the seeing is, what do you mean?
I'm talking about insight.
Right, I understand. So insight, in what way would insight be tainted? Or would the insight
Well,
itself
okay,
is tainted?
sometimes it can be paranoid. It can be a paranoid insight.
Right,
Yeah. So,
okay.
so then I think, oh, you know, that's a. I'm still in a box.
Uh-huh.
I'm still in a.
But when you have an insight, it's a different box, isn't it?
I'm still within a box, seeing. Yeah, I mean, it's like
Okay.
a different.
Well, we talked about the box on Friday, didn't we? What was that
I
like?
don't remember. We did.
Yeah, you said you were talking about how.
Oh no, this was this.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a box.
Well, that was energy. That was a huge sense of energy
Right.
bouncing up against this wall.
Right. Right.
Yeah, well, that's non-thinking. I mean, that was just energy, sensation, perception of
Oh yeah.
More physicality.
Right. As opposed to this other stuff you're talking about is more thinking.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's
Well, don't worry about thinking. Thinking's completely irrelevant.
But what about insight? I mean,
What about it?
What is
Insight is not thinking. Insight is the revelation of energy.
without words? I mean,
Well, there may or may not be words present, but the insight is fundamentally nonverbal, or it's not an insight. I mean, it may show up with a kind of a narration or a commentary, but that's not the essence of it, or it wouldn't be an insight. It would just be another thought. When the insight has some kick to it, that means that it's an energy revelation.
Can you give an example? Well, I mean, just so I know what you're talking about.
Well, like for example, if you have a very simplistic idea that the external world is absolutely objective and absolutely exists and is absolutely solid, and all of a sudden you get it that, wow, wait a minute, maybe what if this was a dream or something, but rather than just have that thought, you really feel it as if that was the case,
Right.
or see the way in which that could be the case. It kind of has a kick to it. It has it's not just the thought of, oh, that's an interesting idea. You know what I mean? It has a feeling tone. It has a present reality, aspects of a present reality to its presentation. So something like that maybe.
Or if you see like a shift in perspective,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh,
Shifts in
you're
perspective.
telling, no, this isn't
Yeah.
necessarily true.
Yeah, shifts in perspective are not thoughts.
Okay, all right. So that's
They may have a lot of thought going on concurrently, but a shift in perspective that feels like a shift is we might qualify as an energy event. I mean, it's all very subtle because thought is an energy event as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fundamental issue about what's going on here is how you relate to your energy. And that is what the exploration consists of, and that's what the revelation consists of, is the discovery of what this energy really is, and the spectrum of ways that you can relate to it, what they are, and that is the totality of reality. And all of this happens on, an energy level, let's say, in quotes, and you have to, discovering what that means is of course discovering about this, how you're relating to your energy. And of course we're all relating to our energy all the time, whether or not we know it, whether or not we think of it in those terms, and usually it's an unconscious sort of how we hold ourselves with regards to our worldview and our sense of ourselves on a sort of an unconscious level. And again, there is conceptual components and ideas and thoughts and so on and so forth. But that's not what it really is. It's how we're holding ourselves with relation to our energy. And when I say with relation to our energy, I mean with relation to the totality of the field of experience. And it's meaningful to talk about how we hold ourselves with relationship to it, because that's possible to do. It's possible that to have a sense of sort of what the energy is and what you are, what the energy is and how it's perceived. Let's qualify it like that. Sort of what the noun is and what the verb is. And it's the nature of the energy that there's a range there. You know, there's a range of possibilities, because the very nature. I mean, this is the cause of the whole spiritual dilemma, is that there's a range of ways in which the energy can seem to be presenting itself, and this range of ways allows for all kinds of arbitrary or interpretations or misinterpretations. But when we explore this range and discover, A, that all of these different ways of relating to the energy field are arbitrary, and then B, that this flexibility is inherent in what we are, and we are actually the whole system, that is sort of, you might say, the final revelation. So, but this process of discovery, it consists of first discovering the mobility of consciousness, discovering that there are different ways of holding ourselves with relationship to the energy, which is where revelation comes in, these kinds of shifts and these kinds of things. And after we discover that and have some experience, develop some sophistication with that, then we get sort of the big picture of what all of that actually is, which of course again is non-conceptual, but is itself an energy experience. To put it in those terms.
That sounds like a goal.
Okay.
That sounds like a huge goal.
Okay.
Revelation makes it sound rather grand.
Well, it does. It's an appropriate term, though.
It is an appropriate term, but for me it has connotations of like the heavens opening.
Yeah. Well, but in a profound sense, it is the heavens opening. You know, and again, not to make that overly grandiose and make that like, you know. I mean, you know, we keep coming up against this in spirituality. Is we're dealing with simple facts of everyday experience, and at the same time we're dealing with the divine. And the notion is that, you know, there's this huge disjunction between those. You know, that normal everyday normalcy is one thing, and the divine is, you know, capital letters and angels, and you know. But of course, everyday normalcy is the divine. So, you know, it's a matter of leveling the playing field and seeing that it's just about reality. And reality is God. Reality is divine. Reality is normalcy. Reality is just day-to-day ho-hum, you know, go to work and get a paycheck, which happens to be God. You know, but the problem is not this. The problem is that we have this incredible, unrealistic preconception that the divine is this way overblown, grandiose. I mean, spirituality in capital letters, and you know, all of this stuff. You know, that is actually not how it is. And the fault is not in how it is. The fault is in our misunderstandings, our preconceptions that we're bringing to it. So again, revelation sounds really overblown, and that could be misleading. But the misleadingness is not in the fact. The misleadingness is in our expectations of this enormous disjunction between, you know, divinity with a capital D, reality with a capital R, self-realization, you know, the Atman, you know, spiritual transmission, all these things that are like, you know, just like so exalted and so inconceivably holy that we're, you know, they're you know, it's you know, bigger than Santa Claus. And then there's our life where we eat and shit and sleep and drink too much, and you know, and it seems like there's this enormous gap there, but there's no gap at all. They're the same thing, and it's just our fantasies that our fantasy of the normalcy of this is wrong, and our fantasy of the specialness of the divine is wrong. This is not normal. I mean, this is as normal as it gets. This is normalcy, but normalcy happens to be the divine. I mean, ground zero is God, you know, and again, the problem is not with that fact. The problem is with our erroneous thinking of it, which gets back to the fact that the nature of the energy system is ambiguous enough and is variable enough that it allows these incredibly major seeming misinterpretations of itself. And the point of experiencing these, revelations or experiencing the mobility of consciousness or whatever you want to call it, to discover the range, that there's a range in the way this energy system can experience itself. As we discover this range, we free ourselves from these preconceptions and we get in touch with the reality of what it actually is. And we discover normalcy, we discover divinity. And the mode of doing that is revelation, or what's called direct experiencing.
So, could we say that it might start with noticing a contraction
Sure.
in the body?
Yes, noticing anything whatsoever, but absolutely these are all, it's all about learning to experience your experience as the energy functionality that it is, rather than experiencing it in sort of second and third hand Baroque, incredible superstructures about, bodies and environments and, all the entities that we supposedly populate our experience and suppose it consists of. When we reduce that to simplicity, it's like reducing an algebraic equation that's like written all over the blackboard like that to, x plus y equals 2 or something, or reducing a very complex sentence and discovering what the noun actually is, the subject actually is and the object actually is, so you just figure out what's going. It's like that here. There's a very simple thing happening here, but we approach it, naively, as if it was enormously complex, and so we get lost in the forest of our own elaboration. So discovering, first of all, reducing this to simplicity of an energy event, and discovering what that actually means, not an energy event is some abstract thing that you have to, imagine, but just, saying, okay, this is, what is it? Wow, it's kind of an energy event, isn't it? Well, it kind of is. And you discover the way in which that's true, and then you're able to deal with it more directly as an energy event, and then you get to discover its parameters, discover its mobilities, see how it's, deconstruct, but not intellectually, deconstruct, by direct experience, what its parameters are, what kind of variability it has, and how it seems to be doing itself. But how's that click for you?
Well, it was interesting to see the shift,
Yeah.
to watch the shift.
Good. You saw a shift.
Yeah.
Good.
And I know when it happened and what you said. So.
But in the shift, there's a kind of a seeing, right?
When you said, okay, this is the divine right here,
Right.
starting at 0.
Right.
Then okay, so you see where we are now as, say, like this is the finish line.
Yeah. The famous yes.
Yeah. So that takes the energy away from there to right here.
Yes. Good start.
So then.
Much better place to start. At the finish line.
So then the energy, instead of being in a body, it is like spreads out, is out.
Yeah. Well, it's where it is, which is here. And where is here? Where does here start? Where does here stop? Well, it's here. It doesn't have a starting. It doesn't have a container. It doesn't have a this and that. It's just here is here. Here is inclusive. So right away, you get rid of all of those kinds of separations, and then that's a good starting point. Okay, here. So we've got here. Great. We're here. Where are we? Where does that leave us? And see, this is a good point to begin inquiry. But you're starting with a simple energy presence rather than a very Baroque and complicated and inconceivably stupefying, complex Rube Goldberg machine of physical reality. once you get to here, okay, good. There's here. Then what? Well, so where does that leave us? How does it work? What's going on? Well, it's interesting. There's a mobility. There's not a staticness or a stuckness. There's
You mean the energy itself?
yeah, or just the way in which it is. I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm just tossing out arbitrary parameters here. But once you're here with the actual energy presence, then you can begin to look at it nakedly, be with it as it is, and see what it does, and see to whatever extent you can see how it does what it does, or what the parameters are, what the range of the system is. But again, now we're dealing with direct energy. Let's call it how you're holding yourself with regard to the energy, or how you're let's call it how you're experiencing the energy. And then we discover, well, there's different ways or modes, or let's say a spectrum or a sliding scale or a range of possible modes of experiencing the energy. And then exploring those is very interesting, and then that's even more freeing. So getting to the experiencing this as energy is one big step for a man.
For me.
And then, or a woman. Although that doesn't really apply at this point. Once you're with the energy, maleness and femaleness become kind of moot. And then, so that's the big thing, get to the energy, and then there's the progressive revelation of discovering its modes, discovering its range. And ultimately you find out what it is once you go through its range. Which is the giant step for mankind. Or the other way around, maybe, I'm not sure.
You said it wrong, actually.
Well,
It's got to be on the move to really appreciate it.
So in exploring that, before you were saying you try to find the edges of it, or you push it out.
well, those were just tricks of you were thinking of it as being a certain way, and I was encouraging you to look and see if that was really true. And in the looking, you discovered that, well, there's other ways to approach it than the way you were holding it. And that's the point, is just to keep trying alternatives, keep sort of pushing the edges. If it seems to be a certain way, look and see if it is really that way, and what other ways is it, or can it also be? And this is discovering the sort of the range of what it can be like.
But if you're finding edges, you've missed.
Yeah, for sure. But again, if you are finding edges, you have to discover that you've missed by finding they're not there. And again, you have to do it directly, by so-called direct energy experience. If you do go back into analysis and conceptualization, you just...
What if it's like a shape?
Cool. Play with it. Whatever it's like, play with it. Whatever it's like, see the way in which it is that and is more, and then go explore the moreness. Okay, cool. This can be experienced as if it has edges, but then if you look at that closely, you discover the edges aren't actually there. So in what other ways can it be experienced? So edges, all of a sudden, is an aspect of the range of modes let's call it resonant modes, of ways that the energy can seem to be presenting itself, or can seem to be experienced, or can seem to be approached as if it was, let's say. And then you start playing with it, you discover, well, can you approach the energy as if it was nothing at all? And lo and behold, you discover you can.
As if it's nothing?
Yes. One of the modes of energy is absolute nothingness. And so on and so forth. But anyway, the point is for you to find these things for yourself by playing with the energy, by discovering its range. And you do this by exploiting the mobility of consciousness, by exploiting the fact that there is a dynamism, and there's, in actual fact, the energy, even when you're holding the energy a certain way, or being related to it in a certain way, in actual fact, even within that, there's a constant spontaneous dynamism and ambiguity, which is a great opportunity, because nothing is fixed, nothing is locked in, nothing is stuck, and you're always, wherever you are, you're always also simultaneously somewhere else. So you can do the spiritual equivalent of beam me up Scotty and teleport yourself to a different hyperspace framework where things are very different in every regard.
Go back to that. Go someplace else.
Yeah, baby.
Well, the point is you play with it and explore. But first you have to come to the energy, and then you discover the mobility. Within that, you discover the unfixity, and then you begin to explore the range of that unfixity and see what kind of places you can get to. What kind of places can you go to? What kind of modes of the energy can you discover? And as you do this process, you're learning more about what the energy is, and of course you're learning more about what you are, what reality is, what God is, blah, 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 because they're all essentially the same.
I think there's a close analogy to this. The close analogy is thinking. You never come to the end of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
And you never stop having original thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's just like this. You never come to the end of this, and you never stop having original this.
Yeah.
It's just like thinking. In fact, thinking is...
Well, thinking is this. Thinking is a subset, a very small subset of this.
Exactly, but it's a subset, but it has all the characteristics
Yes.
Right.
of it. Completely. There's nothing different between thinking as you're normally doing it
And so-called direct energy experience.
exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Because thinking is direct energy experience, so naturally.
Yeah, but as you say, it's a subset.
Yeah,
But it has all the characteristics.
yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Sure. Well, it's a fractal system. It contains itself, and every aspect of it reflects the totality. And this applies to even confusion, even delusion, even all of this completely reflects the nature of the whole, the nature of reality, the nature of the divine. This infinite, endless proliferation while never departing from itself. I mean, that's probably one of its absolutely prime characteristics. It's infinitely different in itself while never departing from itself. Always and in all contexts. So that when you're with the energy, you're always with infinite variation, infinite differentiation, and yet it's just it. It's not like it actually splits off from itself. And yet its very nature is to be continually splitting off from itself, continually bifurcating. It's like you've heard me talk about it as being like a sparkler, where it's just shooting off versions of itself in every which direction forever. And yet it never departs from itself. It's always just this here. And which is one of the major aspects that leads to confusion, because it's so tempting to follow the sparkles, to follow off this or that, and it's this, it's that, it's this, and fall into partialities and start holding them as being true, and you lose the open-ended, paradoxical, never departing from itself, and inclusiveness. So it's always absolutely different than itself and always absolutely the same as itself as one single principle, which is mind-boggling. And so we have to learn to approach, you can't really think that because it's illogical, so you can't think it in logic, but you can know it energetically because it's quite apparent. Your experience is just this endless field of just constant different. It's different. Every portion of your experience is different than every other portion of your experience, and it's different in itself in the next instant. And it's just like this infinite difference, and yet it's all just here. It's all just this. It's all just you. You're here. So getting the feeling tone of that and learning to feel the integrity of that, the functional integrity of that as a constant. As a point of relationship, to see that this is where I am, this is what I am. I am a field of infinite difference that never departs from itself. I mean, the words don't really do it justice, but that indicates the principle. But then you can, but when you feel it, you can feel it very precisely and see it very precisely because it's very obvious once you get the idea of where to look. And again, looking, I mean, energetically, like just because experience is, of course, an energetic phenomenon. It's not a rational thing or a logical thing. Just what we call experiencing is an inconceivable miracle. What is being experienced? How is it being experienced? But that miracle is of the essence of what this is.
The more you see the changes, the more you can see what it is that changes.
Yeah. You start to get more of a sense of the range.
Yeah.
Because we're used to experiencing it from an ignorant point of view. We're used to experience it through such a heavily filtered worldview, conceptual framework, that we basically are in a kind of a numbness and denial. So we don't, even though we're constantly experiencing the range of this astounding fluctuations, we're sort of pretending they're non-existent, and we collapse them down to normalcy and sameness and boringness. But when we experience this astounding mobility nakedly, then we get to see what the range of it truly is, and then we get to see, how vast and spectacular this astounding phenomenon really is. And it's all just about getting to know what this really is, and it's right here, right now. It's not really a mystery, in the simplest sense, because it's completely revealed. It's completely obvious, completely naked. The only thing that keeps us from seeing it is our own ideas about what it is, i.e. our worldviews, our interpretations, that lock it into a conceptual straitjacket and filter the reality of its incredible dynamism out of our experience, and we think of it as, oh, I'm sitting in this room and I'm bored because, we're having this stupid conversation. When can I go home and watch TV? Meanwhile, galaxies are exploding. Meanwhile, there's just this astounding range of energies presented. And how broad is that range? Well, find out. How many different ways can you experience the present moment? Find that out. And it's not like you come up with an answer or a number, but find the truth of it. Find the truth of this range.
What you're talking about, I've experienced in the way of, and the word that came to me when I was experiencing what was positionality, and that I would have this positionality, and then I'd have this positionality, and then I'd be absolutely free of positionality, and then it kind of dissolved into this, I don't know what.
Sure.
I have no idea what.
Uh-huh.
And then I would find myself in this positionality again.
Mm-hmm.
But to have the experience of, to be here, point of reference, point of reference, point of reference, point of reference, and it was all valid and all, or not valid or whatever. And it was, I've had it several times. The first few were a little bit scary, but then I'm kind of getting almost used to it in a way.
Yeah. So discover that mobility and keep pushing the envelope. Say, okay, I've discovered that. Now, how much farther can I go? Where else can I go? What's the new ground? I've been here, and here. What's there?
And there is like feeling on a whole different level of emotionality and connectedness with people and environment.
Sure.
In a way that I've just gotten a little bit of a taste of.
Sure. Yeah.
That I think is that when I feel it, it feels so familiar, and I know it because I've been experiencing it my whole life. But it's new, absolutely new and fresh, and something I'm not very used to, even though it's familiar.
Sure.
And I kind of want to get back. I kind of want to open to that. But then it's taken its time revealing that.
Well, the more you play with it, the more you let yourself become aware of the possibility of taking advantage of this mobility, perhaps the more you will be able to do so. You know, we tend to settle into numbness, and we sort of settle into a frame of reference, and we forget we've even done it, and we tend to just sort of be stuck there. I mean, not actually, but we sort of become there's a kind of a stasis, sort of seems to set in, of numbness and dullness, but whenever you can have the wherewithal to notice, wait a minute, no, I can be. There's alternatives, and then start thrashing around and pushing that envelope and stumbling into these alternatives. That's great. It's about playing with it, exploring it.
I'm good at thrashing. I'm good at stumbling.
Yeah, do it. Have at it. But anytime you come upon something and it seems to be something, hold it with a grain of salt. Be wary. I mean, it's great. It's a great. Any place you find is a great place to visit. But think twice about before you set up house. So this is. I mean, and that's the aspect of goals and results, and the actual goal is infinite mobility, infinite flexibility, which is also the actual event. But it's very easy to fall into partial versions of that as goals, as points of final stasis, if you really want to go the distance, you have to be wary of that seduction.
The seduction of...
The seduction of settling for some finality, of like, oh wow, this is great, I'm so glad I finally got here, yes, this is it. I mean, this is it, but this is it is not a here.
It's not a place you can settle.
No.
When you see it, you don't want to settle. You see that not settling is what it is.
Yeah, not settling is the...
And then you get to
the
settle for everything.
Yeah, the absolute state is total unsettledness.
I feel stuck inside a huge sparkling.
Rats.
I mean, it just goes out everywhere. Huge.
Cool, play with it, explore it.
And huge energy and muscle, but
It's okay, play with it, good. Discover what else you can discover about it. Because whatever it seems to be, it's more.
Whenever a big chunk of energy goes off in the sparkle, what's left behind?
Well, it's just this big chunk here that it seems to all be coming out of, radiating out of, that it's not mobile at all, it seems stuck.
What's the stuckness made of?
Tremendous energy. I mean, it's not that it's not moving and radiating, but it's in a place.
Is it in a place? Is it really in a place?
Well,
What's relative to what?
well,
Where's north, south, east, and west? No, I mean that very precisely. Look at it.
So I'm looking at the...
Look at the placeness of it. Is it really in a place? I mean, yeah, it's big energy, and it's here, but is it really in a place?
Seems to maintain a area.
Area relative to what? What other areas are in existence relative to it, so you can tell it's an area?
Everything else is out there.
And how is out there different than not out there?
Okay, so I would have to be creating an out there.
Yeah.
My sense of out there.
Yeah, look and see.
As opposed to...
Look and see what the out there is made of. Look and see if there's really a demarcation or really a border.
Yeah. It's all one thing.
It's all one thing. Isn't that interesting? So it's all here. So out there is here. And here does here have particular size or dimension, or is it contained in anything? I mean, this is essentially the same thing we're looking at physics.
Yeah.
So keep looking at it and play with it. And again, notice that it's not what it first seems to be. By looking at it more, just look at it more closely. Look at it. You know, certainly at first, it feels as if it's whatever, and then look at that more closely. Okay, it feels that way, but is it really? And then, you know, you push the envelope, you play with it, and you discover, well, you know, no, I kind of. Again, you hold it to be a certain way, and that becomes a self-verifying prophecy.
Mm.
Another way to approach this or to conceive of this is think that you are an inconceivably powerful magician, and whatever you think your experience to be like, it will instantaneously be like. And yet you don't know that because you think your experience is a certain way because it seems to be that way, and you're not getting that it's that way because you're doing this. You're actually the one who supposes it to be that way instead of it being that way. And you discover this fact by discovering the mobility, discovering, well, I'm holding it to be a certain way, but if I look very closely, I can see, well, is it really that way? Is it objectively that way? Is the evidence like that? You know, what are the parameters? And again, you will discover that no, it's not really that way, is it? It's something other. And that otherness all of a sudden is the doorway out of that frame of reference, which may be right into another frame of reference. Okay, cool. You repeat that process of investigation. And you'd say, okay. And it's not that these frames of reference are evil, it's not that there's anything wrong with playing with them, it's that they aren't objective. They're your toys, they're not your jail. And you discover that you're doing these frames of reference. You're not the victim of them. You're actually the creator of them. If they feel held, it's because you're holding them. There's no outside force holding anything in. And you can discover this very directly.
Certainly there are things that you can't do. I mean,
Maybe, but don't worry about that. I mean, that's getting very abstract. Be with what is present and play with it, and you'll discover that whatever is present has openings, has alternatives, has variability, and whatever is present has potential for further revelation, which will invariably transcend what it seems to be present as. In other words, everything that presents itself whatsoever is an open doorway to something else. So there's no closed doors, there's no walls, there's no finality. Everything that presents itself is actually a doorway which is standing ajar, and you can go through that doorway into something else. And that something else is also a doorway which is standing ajar, which you can go into something else. Forever. So thinking you're locked in a room, you have to supply that as your fantasy, because you are. Because none of the doorways are locked and they're all standing ajar, and there's nothing but doorways.
well, there's size, there's dimension.
Is there?
I was thinking you could play with that.
Sure, play with that.
Um,
But you'll play with it, and those will be doorways into something else, and all of a sudden there's no size and there's no dimension. It doesn't matter where you start from. You can start from, really a Baroque elaborate stuckness, But if you honestly investigate anything that presents itself, you'll move beyond it into something else. So start from anywhere. Yeah, start from space. Start from dimension. That's great. Start from radiance. Start from self. Start from body. Start from spacelessness. Start from non-existence. Start from light. It doesn't matter what your starting point is. It is an open doorway beyond itself. Another, a very simplistic way to put that is nothing whatsoever stands up to scrutiny. Things maintain their apparent integrity through non-examination. If you examine anything honestly, it will disappear.
So I'm creating this intense sensation.
Sure. But challenge that. Investigate that. So there's an intense sensation. Okay, cool. So what is it? When you say intense, like really go into that. What is this? What is intense? And intense will open up into something else. It's a lot like surfing the web, where each one of these things is a link, and when you click on the link, you get another web page that's different than the one you were just on. So you go to intense, and this is all not conceptually, but direct energy experience. You'll be with intense. That's like clicking on the link of the link that's intense, and bang! All of a sudden, you're in the intense site, and wow, something else. And then there'll be more links. Click on one of those links, and all of a sudden, you're in some other site.
Well, there's that curious kind of conundrum of us creating it yourself, and yet also having things appear. I mean, doorways opening, which is not you. I mean,
well, is it not you? You and not you is another doorway. Look at that. Play with that. Is it you? Is it not you?
It's like an unknown presenting itself.
Yeah, sure. And that's very interesting.
I'm curious what other people feel. But,
You'll never know.
I've had people enter me in some way and read my mind and know what was going on.
Sure.
I mean, there's also transference of consciousness.
Sure.
Can't you know that way? I mean,
Well, but what do you when that event happens? All you know is the event. You still don't necessarily know what someone else thinks. I can read your mind, but all I'm knowing is what I read of your mind, which isn't necessarily the same as what you're experiencing. Not to say it's not valid, not to say it's not interesting and useful, but again, it's questionable as a it's questionable as a certainty because
There's so much
you are you are a bubble. Your entire universe is a bubble of you-ness. Your entire universe is a bubble of your energy. And everything you experience in that universe is your energy. So as I appear in that universe, I'm appearing as your energy. And you can't really know what you look like in my energy. I mean, I can read your mind, you can read my mind, and we can have a very profound and intimate understanding of each other, but I will still be understanding in my energy, and you'll be understanding in your energy. And it's meaningless. It's like how many angels can dance on the head of a pin to try to figure out what you're really experiencing and what I'm really experiencing. You know, it's gibberish, it's meaningless. I'll never know anything but my own experience. I'll never know anything but my own being. Which is not a limitation because I'm the divine, I'm infinite. But it's a curious fact.
And even if you did know something, then the next second it would be something different. And then something different. And something different.
Well, it's pretty amazing experience to actually experience someone else's consciousness,
Certainly.
even though it's.
But you do that all the time.
Well, I mean, really know what people are thinking, know the whole energy, emotional.
Certainly.
You know.
But this is an aspect of our experience. And certainly it's pretty amazing. Everything's pretty amazing. I mean, the intimacy with which we can know another person is not really different than the intimacy with which you can know this floor. Or the intimacy with which you can know the sun.
You're such a romantic people.
All the girls tell me that.
I'm glad.
Whisper sweet nothing.
He hasn't got the knack of that yet. The sweet nothings.
These are the sweetest nothings, I assure you.
That's right.
Total agreement in this quarter.
Yeah.
So when we talk about this, and what you've been saying tonight is this is just energy,
Yeah.
and this is our experiences, the different flavors of the energy and the mobility of energy and all of that.
Uh-huh.
So I know, and I have been noticing that. Now I'm starting to notice all the different energy systems that are happening around me, the flavors of energy.
Wonderful.
But the challenge for me is integrating with all the different energy that's happening at each and every moment, and it is all different. And then I have thought about integration, and I don't really know what integration is,
Right.
other than some energies feel better to me than others,
Right.
and that that mobility of energy is hard on my system when it doesn't feel good, and so that's the challenge for me, is integrating with all the different energies,
Right.
whatever it may be.
Right. I think you may have a misunderstanding of what I mean by integration. All of these different energies that present themselves, let them be, let them go. You don't need to assimilate them. You don't need to incorporate them. You don't need to sort them out or make sense of them or establish,
Connection.
Connection or set up embassies. Have embassies with where you're exchanging diplomats and stuff. Just as energy systems will appear, waft through your experience and disappear. They do so autonomously, and integration actually is the opposite of what you're thinking of. It's not a matter of incorporating these energies or establishing a meaningful relationship with them. It's a matter of learning to absolutely let them go, to absolutely let them be free, let them be autonomous, let them be as spontaneous, which they already are, and stop and letting go of trying to, of needing, thinking you need to cling to them or make sense of them or establish some relationship. In a certain sense, it's like letting your world disintegrate, let your world break down into chaos, into just amazing energies that are wafting through, and it's not a problem. You don't need to do anything about it. And so you're integrating. That's what you're integrating with. You integrate with what you actually are, which is an autonomously occurring, spontaneously free energy system that it depends on nothing, needs nothing, doesn't have to have any particular way of being or relationship whatsoever. So it's the integration is actually a letting go, letting things disperse, letting things find their own level.
Yeah. Well, sometimes the interesting part of watching the energy flow is like there'll be another energy system out there, which in the form of somebody, and they seem to be reflecting back the energy that I experience, reflecting back my energy, and that's kind of interesting to me, is how another energy system out there is able to reflect back the energy that I'm experiencing, or maybe that's me, or what. I actually don't know what it is, but it happens a lot.
But there is no one else's energy. It's only your energy. Do you experience other people's energy, but it's your energy you're experiencing.
Your experience. There's no out there.
But there's profound meaningfulness and a resonance of meaningfulness because in a certain sense all of your experiences you're looking at yourself in a mirror. So you see distorted versions of your own energy. So there is an apparent connectedness and an apparent resonance and apparent meaningfulness. But because this energy is one thing, so it embodies meaningfulness, it embodies connection, it's what I call the inherent intelligence. These things are not inert, energy systems are not inert, dull, lifeless things. They are profound intelligence, embodying meaningfulness, embodying connectivity, embodying resonance, embodying all of these kinds of qualities. So there's an astounding, this is what energizes paranoid experience and paranoid fantasies, is the astounding interconnectedness of things. Everything is meaningful, but at the same time everything is meaningless and unimportant, like what we were talking about before in terms of what we were thinking of as integration. Nothing matters. Everything reflects meaningfulness, but nothing matters. So everything can go its own way, and there's nothing hinges upon you doing anything particular with regards to it, because it will be replaced by something else that will come. It's just all of these things wafting by. You can think of it as a sort of a cavalcade of countless mirrors that are just sort of wafting through space around you, and each one reflects a different aspect of you. And one of them comes and goes, but you don't need to sort it out and make it sense and say, well, is that really me? And then another one comes, is that really me? It doesn't matter because they're all you, and as one's going, another one's coming. So there's nothing being lost or gained by the presence of these apparent energies. So it doesn't matter in the sense you don't need to. It's not a puzzle you need to solve. It's more like an installation art or some performance art.
Yeah, I guess I think that I need to establish some relationship with the energy.
Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
Just be with it and let it show you what it is, which means let go of it.
Yeah.
Just let it be what it is. Let it be easy. Let it flow where it's going, and that is the relationship, because that's the true relationship. Otherwise, you're just grasping at ghosts. You're grasping at clouds. You're trying to grab hold of some things that don't actually have any existence, and you'll just confuse yourself by doing that and tire yourself out.
Yeah, definitely. So it's kind of back to that free fall state.
Yeah. Free fall is integration.
Yeah.
Integration is really about integrating with free fall, which is where you let go of everything, and when you let go of it, paradoxically, you own it all. When you let go of it, that's the true incorporation. Because feeling a need to establish relationships with things is actually holding them at arm's distance. You're holding them as other. Whereas when you let go of them as being, just let them be totally ambiguous, then they're also accessible. It's like with people, when you want to get along with people, the best way to do it is to drop your agendas. Just, here I am, here you are. And all of a sudden there's ease, there's accessibility. But when you have some agenda and some pressure, and I got to do this and you've got to do that, it all it does is gum up the works. It actually separates. Whereas when you just drop that and just sort of let go of that, and well, here I am, here you are, then all of a sudden there's space. There's generosity. There's benevolence. And there's also freedom, and there's a lack of dependence. Dependence falls away because all of a sudden I don't need anything from you. I don't need you to be in a certain way. You don't need me to be in a certain way. So we're both set each other free, but in that freedom, all of a sudden, there is an enhanced openness. There's enhanced accessibility. I'm going to have a 5-minute break. Be back in 5 or 10. Can I use your bathroom, Susan?
Sure, go right ahead.
Are people getting chilly or chilly? Especially
Yeah, I
on
think
the
you
floor?
shut the windows and turn on the heat.
We could turn on the heat. We could also just maybe close the volume so we don't get the windows are cleaning there. Oh, I won't pull that down.
So see you in 10 minutes.
Oh boy, iPad madness.
Yeah.
It'll reveal itself to you soon.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I really like when you let go. When you're letting go of it, you're thinking of, and then when you don't think you know anymore, everything do, we all do, we're trained to do that.
Yeah, it's just
Well,
training.
because we have to know how to get home from school, we have to know who's mommy and who's daddy, and who's his sister, and what's our pants, and what's our shoes, and, you know, there's a lot of knowing going on. And it's something.
That's all that's going on.
Yeah, no, well, everything's going on. It is very, very cool.
Oh, sure. Like that.
Yeah.
New iPad. Just
You got a
a
start
beautiful one.
I bought it.
A long time ago, though, right? That's the one you used
You
for
don't
your
use stylus,
iPod?
though, do you?
No, you can use your hand, but my hand.
Oh, yeah.
This thing, I can't figure it out though, how that
What the heck
works.
is this for?
Well, that's the stand.
That's to protect it. I can't figure out how to.
That's a stand.
Tell me how to
Okay.
make it stand. Can you
Make
tell
it
me?
stand?
We can figure it out.
There's two ways it can stand.
Supposed to stand.
It's too what?
There are two ways it can stand.
There's one way.
What?
No, that can't be it.
Is this the Apple Pack?
Wait a minute, this thing here folds though. So maybe it does. How does it do that? No. All right.
Everybody's getting in on the act.
Yeah, that's fun.
Whether or not that's true is irrelevant.
Oh, I see. No.
Because it's
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, I see. You got a different one than this.
Yeah,
This
we
come
got
with
the
it when you bought it? Oh, it came with
You have to
it.
buy it
Separately?
separately.
And they didn't give you any other choices?
Whether it's
$35
facilitated by the setting of.
Well, there's several of these.
Yeah, ours is much better than that one.
I actually got it.
Exploring.
Yeah, I should have got a better one, but I got it. I got a little carry-all case to carry it with me, but I kept it in that.
Yeah, because I've seen different ones that are,
I've seen
It should
it
stand
used
up.
like that.
There you go.
yeah,
That's it.
that's
You
it.
did
This
it.
is the only way I can.
Yeah, that's
You did
it.
it.
That's it.
That's the way you do it. Very good.
Excellent. Oh, now you know. Oh, there you go. And that also stays cool.
I'm glad I could
You
help.
know,
Yes.
two has better than one. Really? It doesn't get warm like a computer does?
But I'm
Really?
really.
Oh, that's
Well,
nice.
I use one for
extra weight
out.
distribution.
Yeah.
Because I have to adjust.
Really?
Never. And yesterday, I had it on for
What the new
4
technology
hours
is.
last
See,
night.
I know how to do these things, I just simply can't make myself do them. I've got all kinds of
Because I
stretches.
was so excited.
You're so cute. That is so cute.
I love it.
I had that yoga for years now.
Now, let's see, here's Justin, but I can't see who's on. Is anybody there?
Jeff is there. Frank is there. Helen from
That's inspiring.
from LA is there.
I can see 9 viewers.
Who else? And a couple of the other. Oh, it's upside down. Doesn't do any of that. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, turn it this way first.
Really get in trouble.
Come on.
It's always too fast.
Oh, you know, because it's YouTube. I'm going this way.
Did you have one yet?
You got it that way. We're happy that you're there. Now turn over. No, because it's YouTube. No, it's not.
No, you did it. You got it. It's supposed to be like this. Wait a minute. Can you tell me how you did that just now?
Oh yeah, you did. What you did was you did
Wow.
that. That's it.
Trying to get out of here.
But maybe you need to turn the whole thing upside down because this is and match follow. You know what? You have it inserted in wrong. That's why.
Did you try one, Jude? Do you like sweets?
Oh no, because there's no openings here. For
Did you try one?
okay.
I hope you do. It's quite spectacular.
No, you know what?
I'll
That
take
should
you
be.
up
Wait
on
a
that.
minute. Oh yeah, because that's where the hole for that is. So yes, it has to be that way. Once you get out of this, go back out of this. Yeah, and then see it's all right side up. Now what? Now open that again, whatever that was. Justin.
You can get it too.
Yeah. Okay. Ah. Okay, John. John.
I'm gonna get something to eat.
We need your help, John. What happened? What happened?
No, I'm not gonna.
It's upside down. Justin is upside down.
Just turn it around.
Have you got it locked?
It's this way.
Have you got it locked?
I don't know.
Is it one to do it when you go like that?
Suzanne, that maple sugar candy is divine.
Oh, having not it being able to
It's so good. You like it? You like sweets?
You know, I have to be careful with maple sugar for some reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it definitely gets me.
Oh, funny.
So, always
You know, my iPhone does that sometimes.
try doing that in Vermont.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
If you didn't like butter too, then you'd be in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Just get a little.
God, I found some wonderful almonds. I ended up bringing back this big bag of almonds. I mean,
Yeah.
who knows?
We'll find that. Take my Pandora from.
Oh, since there's no Leif. Oh, that's right. Well, Leif might be here. Peter? Are you gonna tell Leif about the lunch?
Of course.
Because Leif's the one, she's wondering, Nancy's wondering if,
Leif can't come tomorrow because he's working now.
but he's the one who sends out all the emails.
Yes, I'm going to tell him. I'm going to ask him.
You're gonna ask.
Yeah.
He can be very bossy.
No.
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. I was just razzing your butt. That's my job. I don't know. Because it's what I do.
My good fortune.
You razz mine, so it's a mutual
It's what you
razzing
used,
society.
it's what you used to do.
Well, I don't know. I find I'm still doing it.
Free one.
One of these days maybe we'll stop, but I'm not sure.
It is still on.
What's that?
It's still live.
The audio, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I didn't shut down the video.
No, but the audio's live too.
Yeah. But I'm not, yeah.
You're just not recording it.
Yeah.
So the whole audience is hearing about the razzing?
Mm-hmm.
The audio's still on too?
Uh-huh. We can resume if people would like.
No, I just assumed that it was blinking and I thought it was going, but it's.
Actually, I wonder if I held that up to the camera, if we get
A loop going. Kind of like Alice through the looking glass.
You want to try?
Sure, why not?
That's a little close, don't you think?
Well, the camera.
Yeah, that's good. Just give it a moment.
It'll take a while for it to kick in.
Right, because it's 6 seconds. No, it's only 6 seconds delay.
Longer than that.
Oh, it seems to be. You're still in a hole in the dark thing. You have it awfully close. Oh, there you go. Okay, he's about to hand it to you. Here we go. Here we go.
I wonder what the people watching say.
You just did the. Oh, there he goes. There he goes. He's bringing it to you. Okay. And now that one's going to take a second to. See?
It's a lot more than 6 seconds.
Well, it usually is only about that. Or at least it has been.
I don't understand this stuff.
Peter,
Peter's showing the camera to itself.
it's showing the camera to itself. Now it's about to.
Yeah, but it's
With
Not yet.
any luck, it'll start freaking
Yeah,
out.
see, now
in
after the
30
cup,
seconds.
after you do the cup, there's another couple
It's
of
about to
seconds
start
before he
smoking.
hands it to you. There, he's handing it to you now. Okay. Oh no, not so close because it disappears. Okay, there you go.
It's about to start smoking.
Yeah.
No, we're actually, I think we're in endless regress.
We're
of
into the regress,
the
yes.
the same 10 seconds.
That's
How
right.
boring.
Very funny.
It's actually sort of like
It's like
that Bill Murray movie, The Groundhog Day.
Crazy.
Well, why don't we, shall we regroup?
There's some amazing echoes going on there.
Yeah. It's difficult to get everyone back together.
Someone said WTF? Someone said what the fuck?
I think we'll be back shortly.
Okay. Turn off the volume.
We could reconvene before too long.
Take 5.
Taking time.
Taken 5.
Who, us? Yes, no problem.
We're back live.
I said back to normal, and Jeff said that's what you said.
Is Frank on there?
I don't see him. I don't know what he calls himself. Oh yes, he is here. Hi, Frank.
Yeah, he's there.
Well, I had a couple of not very profound or earth-shaking experiences. Not a big deal, but both of them were puzzling to me in a little bit. A couple of days ago, I woke up in the morning and I found myself in a situation where every experience was coming to me, and all kinds of experiences. Some of the residual dreams flipping by, opening my eyes and seeing, flashes of sections of the environment, energy systems, sparkles. All these things are boom, 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 and they're completely unrelated and disparate.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, and I still can't quite figure out what made it different than now, but I think I can guess. Anyway.
Is it different than now? That sounds like a pretty good description of what my experience is like all the time.
Yeah, well, no, it's different than now because what I think is that these are like comic strip panels. Each one was, a flash, an instant of this, and then it disappeared, an instant of that, an instant of that, and it went on like that. And I was enjoying it, and it wasn't alarming at all. But however, it did cross my mind, wherever my mind was, that this is probably what insane people have. They have no way of unifying that.
Mm-hmm.
And it could have been scary, but it wasn't scary. I realized what was going on, and I was relating it to some of your teachings. And one thing is the sense of importance. I've got to remember this. It's very important for some reason. Right now, it doesn't seem that important. But right now, I've got what I didn't seem to have then, which I conclude is what we probably think of as the ego unifies these panels into a storyline and makes it all okay. It's just passing through.
Right.
Like these are like the open doors that you were talking about a moment ago. All these are open doors. Each one goes into infinity.
Right.
The ego comes along and just takes the door itself, connects it to the next door makes a storyline out of it.
Right.
So this is me and this is my world.
Oh.
Yeah, I call that a worldview.
Yeah, okay, well, I didn't have that worldview at the time.
Yeah. And the worldview exists only in imagination.
Yeah.
The reality of experience is, again, this presentation of disconnected energies.
Mm-hmm.
And in actual fact, they're not disconnected, but the sort of algorithm of their connection is entirely nonlinear and entirely different than the algorithm of the connection that a worldview supplies.
Mm-hmm.
And a worldview supplies a connection that localizes things in space and time and localizes them in terms of priority of meaningfulness or importance and localizes them in terms of self and other and et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
whereas actually the presentation of these energies are not strung together in any of those terms at all. Their interrelationship is the fact that they all embody the same inherent intelligence, each from whatever dimensionality they happen to possess.
So they all go back to a single point, as it were?
Yeah.
Is that point over there, or is that here?
There's no there or here. It's completely beyond those kinds of superficialities. But the point is that that what seems connected from the point of view of ego and worldview, when that ego and worldview is dropped, it at first seems to be very unconnected from within that prior perspective of worldview. But then, when you become more familiar with the apparent disconnectedness of the energy as it presents itself, you discover what we might call a meta-connectedness of the inherent intelligence.
We've often said that there's an intelligence that operates
Yeah,
across that sort of situation.
yeah,
That is not my normal worldview intelligence.
right. So the normal worldview is like an incredibly stupefied, dumbing down version of the inherent intelligence.
Well, that's the comic strip idea.
Yeah.
Or the stick figure comic strip
Yeah.
idea.
Right.
Actually, I guess it was a dream or sort of an imaginary visionary thing where I was standing, I mentioned it somewhere. I was like standing on a mass of comic strip panels, none of them connected. They were just lying on the floor, and underneath that was another, and they went on to infinity.
Yeah,
They were not connected.
right.
This was sort of like seeing those in action in my own life.
Those are good visions. That's profound, because you're seeing the actual structure and the interrelationship between that substratum of actual energy events and then the superstructure of worldview that gets sort of erected as a buffer to try to minimize the disconnectedness and provide an apparent thread of narrative.
Well, as I'm sitting here right now, I say, oh gosh, that was nothing.
Right.
I mean, that minimizing person is active right now.
Right.
And I'm sitting in the usual down, boring situation.
Right.
But I remember that.
Right. Uh-huh.
And I remember the sense that this is important. You've got, I made a note, don't forget this when you go back to where
Yeah.
you're going.
Well done. No, I agree. I agree with your deeper self. Yeah, it's
But my
important.
deeper self is enjoying this, but I'm now back in Dumbsville.
Yeah, but not really.
So are we talking Dilbert or
Oh, you're
Dewsbury?
okay, Anyway, that was, I don't know what to do with it because,
Well, try to notice how in your real-time experience there are actually these presentations of just, you'll have a thought and you'll have a feeling and there'll be a memory and then the attention, what's called the attention flits around like a butterfly on, notices this, notices that, notices this, notices that, just on all these different relatively interconnected dimensions of our experience, memory and fantasy and thought and sensation and then other weird kind of flavors we don't even have word for, and the ego worldview sort of censors that very heavily
yeah.
and says, no, you're just getting distracted, you're here sitting in the room and that's what's really happening, and uses that argument of this is what's really happening to sort of turn down the volume, turn down the brightness on all of these other seemingly disconnected impressions that are actually showing up in your consciousness. And so it's really just a matter of tuning into that, noticing that. Well, I'm sure you're a meditator. I'm sure you have when you start to meditate, at first there's all of these fluctuations, because you're letting go of the censorship, and so the spontaneously appearing energy appears. And then you may go into something else if you're, depending on how you're approaching it. But noticing, what I would recommend is noticing that these energy presences is very valuable because they reveal the actual interconnectedness of the energy with itself, not the pseudo interconnection which ego applies, which worldview applies.
That takes me into a different paradigm.
Yeah, it's wholly.
Organizational.
Yeah, it's entirely different.
Really, but I can posit it being there.
Yeah, it's entirely different.
I'm still looking at it at a distance. I'm assuming it's there. I'm deducing something as being
Yeah,
there.
and you call it insanity. It's a lot like insanity, but insanity is a condition of not going far enough. Insanity is a condition of having a worldview that's coherent, and then you discover this disconnectedness, and then you get lost in the disconnectedness while still trying to
Right.
while failing miserably to have a connectedness. But in terms of this revelation, is you go farther, you go past insanity, and you go to the disconnectedness, and then discover the inherent connectedness behind the disconnectedness. And so you literally shift paradigms, but you go all the way rather than just going halfway, which is what happens in insanity. In which case you discover the disconnectedness, but your foot is still in connectedness, and you're you're failing at both things.
Yeah, you feel fragmented.
Yeah.
I can see. There's another one that, another inconsequential thing. That today I was sitting in the chair, that's why I wrote it down. And sometimes these slip through and disappear. I wrote this down because I wanted to follow up, and I really didn't have time to follow up. I was jumping around and preparing things. But, and this is not profound either. I mean,
Well, you never know.
Yeah, you're born as Dean. Come on.
Well, I'm trying to read it because I remember. Well, I was looking at that table there. I was sitting where John is and doing some other things, some music stuff, and then I looked at the table and I was thinking, what is I went into presence, and I was thinking, there is presence in that table. What is the presence in the table? And there's sometimes I try to look for the presence, and inside I don't find it. And I was doing that with the table, and then I realized I'm looking for the presence, looking to feel the presence of that table in the actual form of the table. It was like a geometrical form.
Right, I see what you mean.
Which in the form, I told myself from some other angle, the form is like an abstraction. There is no end to it. It doesn't have a form. The real presence is in what I would call sparkles. You might say the sparkles. This is what I'm saying. The energy of the thing is the thing that conveys presence to me. Right. Not the form of it.
Yeah, the here-ness of it, the presence of it in your experience.
The presence is there, but what do I look at to get? I can tune out that presence if I look too much at the form. Is what I seem to be seeing.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's subtle because you never because anything that presents itself by that very fact is presence. So form is presence as well, or it wouldn't be there to whatever extent it is.
Oh, that's what it came to. The form must be presence also.
Yeah, there's nothing but presence. The trick is that presence is not a separate category that is somehow in the form, or a presence is not a separate category that is somehow in the experiencing of the table, the seeing of the table, say. Presence is a designation of what the totality of this actually is, which completely transcends qualities of form, aspects of form, aspects of, experience, aspects of whatever. It's the sort of the transcendental gestalt of what this actually is as an experience, as a presence. I mean, this is a presence. That's the totality of what it is, and then you can say, oh, this presence is a table. Oh, it has form. Oh, it has color. It has blah blah blah. You can sort of deconstruct that. But what you're deconstructing is the presence, which is the fact that it's here at all. And the fact that it's here at all is the totality of what is here, of course. But it's not the sum of the parts of the totality. It's the astounding fact which includes, or can be deconstructed in terms of the subcategories.
Yeah, the total beingness of it.
Beingness, yeah, and beingness again. Beingness is one of these slippery things because it sounds very abstract and it sounds very tenuous. And beingness, yes, sure, there's beingness, but then it's, it gets lost in the sauce of all the details of our experience. But it's the other way around. Beingness is the most concrete attribute of anything. So it is beingness. So beingness, far from being tenuous or abstract or difficult to find, beingness is the bludgeoning fact of the fact that it is actually present.
Yeah.
And then all these other things, all these other qualities are the abstractions and are the more tenuous. The
Yeah.
beingness is huge and is really.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, they're all the beingness incorporates all the different abstractions, energies, everything in it. The fact that it's there.
Yeah.
There's a line of thought. I want to be sure, that all the lines that are parts of the line of thought get clarified. The line of thought that I was getting to was, I was seeing it back at the beginning of this, but I was just noticing the sparkles or the energy of it seemed to be the thing that I was really feeling as presence, and I was relating that to energy presences that I feel now. I can feel in the body. I can feel a descending force.
Sure.
And that has no form. That just has energy. That has real presence to me.
Sure.
And I was connecting that with the energy level of the table,
Mm-hmm.
and saying that it's not the form that conveys that, but it's the energy of the thing which aligns with the energy I feel here. I was calling those presences.
Right.
And then I was saying the form seems to be sort of like an abstraction in the sense of a word symbol for it.
Right. Yes.
Because the form, it doesn't have the real dimension. It just, it spreads out. But I see it as a form. And that's a kind of abstraction. But the abstraction, of course, is also energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like a computer screen, the little green lines that you want to see and rotate it and everything, there's no form to it, but they can identify things, and those little green lines, they actually have form, although it's a different kind of, or they have form and energy, but it's a different kind of thing. It's this one that I was doing. Yeah, I was relating that to, I concluded in my 5 minutes examination, I concluded that there is form. There's something called, that a lot of people call sacred geometry. In other words, forms actually have energy. The same way mantras, which could be an abstract word, but it can carry energy in an abstract form, can carry energy also. So anyway, I was balling all this up, and I finally said, okay, it's all energy, it's all presence. And I just wanted to sort out that line of thought.
Yeah, it's all energy, it's all presence. And it's all embodies meaningfulness, because energy and presence is also intelligence. Which is why, yantra and mantra and all this, why forms inherently embody meaningfulness, because that's actually what they're made of. They're one and the same.
Made of consciousness, made of intelligence, made of energy.
Yeah, all those consciousness, intelligence, energy are all synonyms. Oh, thanks so much.
Okay, I'll carry it on. I'll write the next page tomorrow. I'll carry it on.
And just noticing that, being with that in real time, is the revelation, and is endlessly profound. It's not just a little thing. It's not. I mean, that's the final thing. This presence is not is the point. It's absolutely the point. And when being with it is the method to see that, to come to understand that, to come to see how profound, and this presence is literally the absolute. It's the absolute. It's the extreme condition. It's the extreme fact.
Well, there's another facet. There's that facet connected with the other thing. Waking up the other morning, seeing the disparity of the experience. The non-connectedness of it, and maybe the real enlightenment for me in regard to that thing is the comparison of my state, as it were, then, and my state, as it were, now. I can clearly see that there's 2 points of view.
Uh-huh.
And I can remember that point of view even now, but I don't see that disparity right now. I see a unified bunch of, just same old stuff. But, But I was saying that's really important to remember that, possibly because I see a bipolarization here.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's really good to notice how subtly and how powerfully we slip into a worldview.
Yeah.
We impose, and then it's unassailable. It's just, yeah, of course. We just completely buy it as our reality.
Yeah, it's like the two faces here.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
so.
And the vase.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one is here, and one is there, and one is here, and one is there, and holy cow, maybe there's more. God forbid.
Actually, it turns out God isn't in the forbidding business.
He's holding it out and trying, here it is, I'm not taking it. Well, I'm glad that, I guess it was Jeff that pointed out, or maybe Lakshman that pointed out early on, that those are both your faces, because I was thinking before they were Bush and Cheney.
I'm Bush and Cheney. That's
I like the picture a lot better now.
Well, I got a lot out of your insignificant, non-significant stuff. But I did want to say that when you were having your talk, and I was able to kind of pull away and just be in this room and have the beingness of this room come upon me, and allowing that. And, you know, it's very different than watching looking at the form of a table, and there's all sorts of energy coming and going and coming and going, and then it's just all this melange.
Yes.
But you seem to be in that, and you seem to be very pristinely, and in fact, right now, I seem to be able to carry on a thought, but it seems like you shouldn't be able to carry on a pinpointed thought in this whole melange of energy, because it's very disparate.
That only makes sense if you're contrasting thought as being dependent upon a egoic condition or a worldview condition, but that's not the case. In actuality, thought is a function of inherent intelligence, and when you let go into the openness of the non-defined nature of the presence, in actuality, you can follow thought with much greater precision and flexibility than you can within a constrained worldview.
Seems like that's the case, but it's pretty different than the worldview point of view.
Yeah, because we have this fallacy that somehow us holding it together is what enables us to think and to talk and to conceptualize, but it's the other way around. In actuality, us holding it together is a damper, dumbs down our thought, dumbs down our functionality, and when we let go of all that and just melt into the flow, so to speak, poetically speaking, in actuality, our functionality increases enormously, our intelligence increases enormously, our connectivity and communicability increases enormously. Because we have access to spontaneity, and spontaneity is the vehicle of intelligence. You don't need to think what you're going to say before you say it, you just say it, and they're thinking that the intelligence is embodied in the real-time saying, rather than thinking, what am I going to say next? Oh.
But I've been stuck in trying to learn that other mode, and having been taught in that other mode, and having been blah 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 in that other mode, and culturalized.
Yeah. That's the tar baby, you've been sold a bill of goods, because in actuality, the be all you can be means to let go of everything you ever thought you were.
That happens in writing. If you sit and look at a blank page and you try to write something profound, and nothing will come, but just write the first sentence that comes to your mind, and then ad lib for the next, like a jazz musician would. Just take that and take that, where that.
Yeah, sure.
And then you look back and say, well, where did all this come from?
Yeah.
I just mention that because I've done that.
Yeah. But it's removing the individual from the transaction and just letting the event do itself.
Trust it.
Yeah.
To do itself.
Sure. I mean, that's the great discovery. When we stop doing, when we let go of this mania that we need to do so much, or we need to do anything at all, in actuality, everything gets done much, much better. You know, we're the spanner in the works. We're the fly in the ointment. When we just let go of that, all of a sudden, everything happens effortlessly and beautifully and with incredible precision and interlocking functionality.
There's a terrible conspiracy about that because there's people out there, and I may say the wrong thing. So then you censor and censor and censor and censor.
Yeah.
And you do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
As soon as you're concerned about that, you're dead in the water.
Yeah, sure. Good.
Used to say in music, whatever you play, just play it out loud. It's a
Yeah.
mistake, good, but don't try to crunch back with it.
Yeah. If you make a mistake, do it again.
Yeah, well, it's
Make it a
sequence.
theme.
It's a sequence now. It's okay.
Yeah.
There does seem to be intelligence in politics, so being political.
That's the acid.
Politics.
That's the acid test. Right? There's intelligence even in politics. That proves that intelligence is ubiquitous. Unfortunately, it's not a very functional intelligence. More kind of a satiric intelligence.
Well, I'm saying in being politics, I mean, you can't just blurt out what you really think.
Or not. You can.
You can, but
It all depends. It
there's
depends.
always some kind of.
It depends if you want people reacting to you, reacting to who you really are, or if you want them reacting to a facade of you. And if you say what you really think, people will react to what you really are. And but it gets to be philosophically whether you think that's a good thing or not. Whether you want people relating to you or people relating to a puppet of you that's not really you.
Well, some kind of inscrutability.
Yeah. Well, we do this for safety. We do this so that we create a vanilla version of ourselves that doesn't offend as much as the real raw version might. But which gains us the advantage of a kind of a social lubrication. But we deprive ourselves of genuine relationship then because. Or we have to resort to, within that context of that sort of a stealth mode, we have to have clandestine, genuine relationships below the radar, where we let ourselves actually out. But it's a matter of philosophy, I suppose. But it's my opinion that it's better to be yourself. Maybe no one will like you. But the people that do like you will like you, not the cleaned up version you're pretending to be. Guess it depends how much you want friends.
But can you ever not be yourself?
About 10 minutes left. In case there's anything we haven't touched on tonight that is a burning proposition in anyone's mind.
It's just kind of interesting that without any instructionality, that we seem to be closer at touching whatever this is than with instructionality. I've had meditation instruction along several lines, and it always kind of leads me astray in a bit.
Yeah. Because what this is inherently open-ended, and you can't approach open-endedness very directly through direction.
Yeah.
You can't get to nowhere very easily by trying to get to somewhere.
Yeah.
Instruction's useful for starting,
Sure.
but not for getting there.
Seems valuable to explore by doing nothing. I mean, just sitting and being.
Absolutely. When you get to a certain point of maturity, that's the most efficient, most naked way that you can investigate yourself.
I find myself more nowadays just being the witness and just watching.
Sure. That's good.
And that's probably more of a motivation to do that than to get involved or over involved in the energy event.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
suppose it's impossible to say when a person becomes realized, becomes aware of truth. Because if you could say that that happens in this point of time, well, we had some, that's this point of time, that's here, that's now.
Well, realization is the discovery of the certainty of here and now, and it's always here and now. But you haven't discovered the certainty that it is here and now until you realize. I mean, in a certain sense, the essence of realization could be put as this really is. And of course, truly, of course, this really is. Everyone knows that. But to really get that is realization. It's really.
Can that be said to happen in a point of time? Maybe 10
Well,
years
in terms of historical context, certainly. But it's not actually a new event because it's just a discovery of what this has always been. You know, in the context of history, in the context of your personal history, you can define a moment of realization, perhaps, but history isn't the true perspective. So, you know, again, it gets down to putting in different frameworks. You know, I can say, in my experience, there was a specific moment where I realized I was realized.
That's weird.
And it was a very, very specific moment. I can recall it I can remember where I was sitting, what I was thinking, what I was doing.
Right.
You know, what day it was, all this kinds of things. And yet all I discovered is what has always been the case. So it's, you know, it's a strange state of affairs.
Yeah, I can't see the logical. I can't see any.
But it's not really important to think about it in those terms. Just explore this, and then the time will come where you'll go, oh.
Well, I'm thinking the practical application of that is there's a little poem in Alice in Wonderland or Through the Looking Glass where he's talking to the little girls and he's tired and they're in a boat and three little girls and he's told these incredible stories and he's tired. He says, well, we'll do this next time. And all in unison they say, it is next time. So what I'm thinking is that if there's some point in the future where Dean gets realized, 10 years from now.
Oh, Dean will never be realized.
Well, that's, yeah. I'll buy into that. But that point must be now.
Yeah.
I can't see how can that not be now?
Of course. Well, it's always now.
So then I should come back to the present and not be thinking
Always.
about
Realization is here.
Right.
And when you realize that is the moment you realize.
That's what's weird.
Yeah. Realization is here, but we don't realize that realization is here.
Yeah. So realization.
We don't appreciate it. We don't appreciate it. We don't see it. We undervalue it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the old story of the old beggar woman who has nothing but her tiny falling down hut and the rock that she sleeps on. And one day a passerby says, "Hey, that rock is a rock of pure gold. You're rich," and she just didn't know it. And likewise, you're rich. You have this. You have this present moment. This is realization. This is what all the fuss is about. All you need to do is notice it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's why at that point it could be qualified as realization per se, but it's not a new state of affairs. It's just appreciating. Oh, wow! Who'd have thought? all this time it's been this, and I didn't. I somehow missed it.
I can't see how that happens in a point of time.
Well, it doesn't, but don't worry about it. It's not important. And the point of time it happens in is now.
Well, that's what I mean. If it happens in the point of time, I'm back to seeking. Let's hurry
Yeah.
up and get there.
But it's not a temporal event. Where you're hurrying up to get to is here and now.
Mhm.
So get to here and now, and you'll get to here and now when you do.
That's what's weird.
Well, it's very weird.
Be here.
But after the fact, it'll all make sense.
That's good.
It's because you will realise that you're already there.
The point is to give up seeking.
Yeah, in the most profound sense, yes, absolutely. But you can't give up seeking by trying to give up seeking. You give up seeking by actually giving it up. You give up seeking by realizing you found.
Yeah.
And you found by realizing that by appreciating this is this, and so once you get that, there's nothing to seek. It's like, oh, this is it. Well, obviously that's giving up seeking.
So the truth is the only thing that really takes me beyond seeking.
Yes.
And
Reality is the end of seeking. Truth is the end of seeking. And truth is right here, right now. So the end of seeking is right here, right now.
Unless I'm seeking.
Unless you're seeking.
It's a dog chasing a stick.
Well, logically it is. But in actuality, it's always truth
always
unfolding itself. And you just reach a certain point where the obviousness of that gets sufficiently obvious that you can qualify that as being realized. But it's not a new state of affairs. It's just that you hadn't noticed it. Or if you have kids, your kids are your children, and the children, and one point you notice, oh my gosh, this child's an adult, and it's not like it's a day. It's not a moment in time so much as it is. It's just realizing what is already the case.
Sneaks up on me.
Sure.
It comes to you.
Well, there's nothing that comes.
It doesn't come to you.
There's no it, there's no you.
And there's no coming.
There's no coming, but otherwise, yeah.
But it happens.
Nothing but it happens. This is it happening.
It's always happening.
This is it. The appropriate response to this is it is, oh, wow.
Right.
1, 2, 3.
Duh.
Oh, wow.
That's politics.
The body politic.
Well, good night. Good night out there in TV land.